Welcome to Excel one step at a time. In this video, we'll be going over some of the basic functions in Excel. Now I've got an Excel spreadsheet already built out with some sample data. And here we're going to be using some of the tools we used in prior videos and also introducing some new tools. Now I'll be using quite a bit of tools in this video, but it won't be so much that it's overwhelming. There are real basic tools that you could use and it's just a click of a button. So I won't go too in detail with it, but I'll give you a brief overview of all these tools. All right, so let's begin. Now I've got this data here, just basic sample data, nothing personal, just made up information here. And what I want to do is I want to organize this into a presentable chart. Right now it's kind of scattered all over the place. There's missing data in a couple rows, blank information here and there. And so I want to organize this, make it presentable. So I don't know if I want to give it to my boss and it looks something decent, not just raw data that people kind of cringe at when they see this kind of stuff. So let's start organizing this. Real simple. I want to first of all get rid of some of these blank rows. I don't want these rows at all. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete rows. Now this is something we haven't done yet, but it's a good time to start showing you how to delete, move around cells, rows, columns. Okay, so what I want to do is get rid of row 5. So what you want to do is highlight the row, or you could just right click on it, on a number itself, and just hit delete. Simple enough. I'm going to do that for the rest of them. Delete that. Delete row 19. And you could also do multiple rows. So if you want to highlight a couple of them, right click, you could also delete it that way. This way it just makes it a lot faster. Now if we had some rows in between that were blank, we could also delete those too. One thing you could do in addition to deleting is inserting rows. So if you want to right click on it, instead of hitting delete, you go to insert, and there we go, we've inserted a row. So we're going to delete that for now. You could delete it, or I'm actually going to undo. There's a tool up at the toolbar, you could undo. Now this is your quick access toolbar up at the top. It's something you could modify yourself. There's a few options you could show if you want. You could do a quick print, something. These are more common tools that you use on a day-to-day basis. You could click to add new ones if you want, or unclick to hide a couple, but right now as a default I've got save, undo, and redo clicked here. So those are just the common ones I use, and that's enough for me. So again, what I did was I inserted a row, and then I want to undo this. I could delete it, or I could just hit the undo. If I hit redo, it's going to add it back in again. Okay, so now I want to actually center this data. It's kind of off to the left-hand side. I want to make it towards the center, kind of make it look a little better. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to insert a column. Column A, I'm going to right-click, and I'm going to insert it there. And just like a row, you could insert, you could delete. If I wanted to, I could delete multiple rows. Multiple columns, and I could always undo it, hitting the undo button over here. Okay, so now it's a little more to the center, but I want to move it a little more. So I'm going to increase the size of column A. Now you could either drag it out like I did right now, increase the size. In this instance, it would be the width, and you can see at the top where it says width 26.14. It kind of shows you what size it is. If you want a specific size, you could always right click and go to column width, and you could put in a specific size. This could be done for multiple columns if you want. You could highlight everything. So if you click on this little icon over here in the corner, it highlights everything, all the cells, columns, and rows. And if I want, I could format the width right here for all of them. So if I want to make it 50, for all of them, it'll apply to all columns within the sheet. I could do the same thing with the rows. Row height, if I wanted to make it 25, it'll apply to 25 to all rows within this sheet. Now it's only this one sheet, not all the other sheets in this workbook. It's just this specific sheet. But I don't want to do that because it just looks wrong. I'm going to undo those two. Okay, so now that's centered, I want to remove the grid lines here. Now these grid lines, it's nice to have them so that you could kind of see data row by row, column by column. It helps you visually, but in the end we want to make it look better than how it looks now. So I'm just going to remove the grid lines and go to view at the top, and you can just click on this button here, grid lines. Something else we can do is, if you go back, highlight all the rows and cells, and we can actually color them white. So here, this little icon here, the little paint bucket with the paint flowing over it, that's your fill in button. So it fills in certain colors for the cells that you have within this worksheet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill it white, and there you go. As you can see, now all cells are white. There's no grid line or anything. That's just another way to do it. Just undo that though. I don't want to apply that. I want to actually remove it this way because I want to do some other decorations within the cell. I want to make this look like a nice table. So first of all, I've got my header. What I want to do is make this stand out aside from the rest of the data, make it look like a real header. So we're going to use a couple tools up here. Now, first one here is your fonts. You can change the type of font you have, and if you hover over the font, it'll kind of show you what it's going to look like. You could pick whatever one you like for this example. I'm just going to pick, this one looks fine. And now it looks like it's a little squeezed in together. Some of the data is kind of hidden. So what we want to do is kind of expand the column so that all the data is visible. So what I'm going to do is going to grab all of them, double click in between A and B. You get this little bar with two arrows. So you double click and it expands the columns appropriately to as much width or length that you need so that the data all appears. Alright, so the font's changed. Now I want to decorate a little more. I'm going to make it bold. That's what this B does here. It bolds it out. I want to italicize it too, just to give it a little flair. I want to make this also, I want to decorate this. So let's fill it in with a little bit of color here. Darker blue. Now it's not looking very good now with the black against the blue. So what I'm going to do in addition to that is change the color of the font. Now the next icon here, that A with the color underneath it, color for the fonts, color it white. That looks better. White font against the blue, so it works out. It's more visible, it's clearer to see. And just in case I need it, I'm going to expand it a little more, make sure everything appears appropriately. Okay, so that looks way better. Now what I'm going to do is give this a little flair with giving it kind of a charty look. So I'm going to grab all this data, and this is going to be a chart. So there's two things you could do. I'm going to show you the first one and then go into the second one here. I'm going to format the cells. Now what I want to do is give it some borders, make it look like a real chart. From here we could go to borders, and here in this little section we've got different options of different borders we could do. So we could do a little dash line, different kind of dash dot lines, a solid line, double solid, a really bolded line if you want. Different options you have here, and you could even color them differently as well from down here. I'm just going to go with the standard black for this example. Now what I want to do is give it a border between the cells first. Let's do that. I think I'll go with just the dotted lines, I think. And I'm going to click on this outline just to show you what it's going to look like. So outlining it, it's going to look like that. Now I want to do inside mostly though. That's where I really want it. So inside is going to have those dotted lines. On the outside it's also going to have dotted lines, but maybe I don't want to do it on the outside. Maybe on the outside I want a double solid. So I'm going to outline it that way. And as you can see, it's got double solid lines on the outside, dotted lines on the inside. So let's see how that's going to look. And it looks pretty good. I'm liking it. It's still not complete though. I do want to just give it a little more spacing here. In addition, I want to give it some cushion around the sides. I don't want it to be hugging a corner. I'm just expanding this here. You don't have to do it this way. You could always just expand it however you want to do it. But I don't want it hugging a corner, so I want to kind of center the data and give it different formats per column too. If it's a dollar, if it's an amount, I want dollar signs and decimals and everything. Now that I've got enough spacing on this, let's center the data. I could do this two ways. I could grab just this data here, or I could apply it to the whole sheet if I want to. So I think I'm going to go with just this data. Now here in the alignment section, there's different options you could do, and I'll show you each one. So you could align it to the left, align it to the center, or to the right. For now, when I do center, looks better. It's got some cushion on both sides, so that's what I want. If I want to, and if the rows were actually wider or longer, increase the height here so you could see what it's going to look like. So here, highlight all the data. Now obviously this is just going way beyond what I want to do. I want to actually make it appear all visibly on one sheet and within this view, so I'll fix this in a little bit, but I want to show you this. So right now we've centered it horizontally, but now vertically we're going to change the setting too. It's set to the bottom for now. As you can see there, it's bottom aligned. We could do center, we could do top as well. So if I center it, it looks even better. It's got some cushion on the bottom and the top too. Or we could put it to the top. However you want to do it. I kind of liked it the way it was, so I'm just going to undo this, leave it like that. But, you know, looking at it now, maybe I'll give it a little bit more room. Let's see here. First of all, figure out what we're set at. We're at 15. So maybe I want to do 20. Row height, 20. That looks better. The height's alright. I don't think it's too much of a difference you're going to see if I put this in the center. But just to show you, it's not much of a difference, so I'll just leave it alone as it is. Okay, so it's looking better now. So let's format some of these columns here. Now these are fine, they're text columns, so I'm going to leave that as general up here. I'm going to leave these alone. These are fine too. The year's fine. Now the rates and the amount I do want to change. I want dollar signs, and I want to make it look more like a dollar figure, not just a number. I'm going to right click, format cells. And I could do it here or I could do it at the top, but I always like going to this option more. It gives me more freedom than the top options do. It's kind of limited up here, so I prefer to do this option here. Now I do like currency. Accounting I don't, and if you saw my last video, you kind of see the difference between the two. I'm not going to go through them right now, so I'll just leave it at currency, 2 decimal places. Okay, there we go, all done. So that one is fixed now. One last thing though, now that I noticed, I do want to change a couple things here at the top. This header row, I want this to stand out a little more, so I'm going to give this a thicker border. And you can't see it now, but if I insert a row there, you might see a little bit more of a difference. Maybe it's not thick enough here. And I'm not going to play with it too much, but I'll just leave it like that. But I do want to change some of these namings. So I'm going to call this last name, first name, ID number's fine. Plan type, plan, and I'm just changing a couple of things up here. I want it to look better. Just having it all caps doesn't make it look very well, for me at least. Rate and amount. And I'm actually going to spell it out. I don't want to just leave, identifiers or codes or any shortcuts there. I just want to make it look nicer and presentable. So here we go. This is pretty much done. So there we go. We've got a pretty nice formatted table now, just using a couple of tools up above. We changed the font. We could also change the size of the font too, which is something we didn't do. If I wanted to, I could just put this maybe 20. Of course, I'd have to increase this. The row height too, and I actually did everything, so let me undo that. Just want to fix that one. There we go. That looks a lot better. So we've changed the font, the sizing of the font size too. You could use these two icons here. Use some bolding, some italics. You could also do underline if you want. We changed the borders, did some fill cells, changed the font color, did some alignment, and a couple other things. So that's it for this video. Hope you liked it, and feel free to subscribe to my channel. You can do this to see more tutorial videos.